Hello and welcome. My name is Lexi Jong and here I like to talk about luxury makeup, and today we are ranking my cream blushes. Now, before we get started on my favorites, let's go through 3 blushes that I have and love but are not included in the ranking. And the first up is the Suku Cream Blush and Highlighter Duo. I did not include these because they were limited edition for holiday 2021. And because they are not available, I figured there was no point ranking them. But this is them. These would definitely be in my top 5. It's a fantastic formula. I really like them. The staying power on these is fantastic. And this shade here is 102. You can see how nicely they blend out. So you can make them very sheer and light. You can also build them up very easily. And again, they stay put on me all day. So this is one that I did not include in the ranking. Another one I did not include is the Shiseido. These are the Air Whipped blushes. This shade is Setsuko number 7. And unfortunately, these have been discontinued. So I didn't want to include them because, you know, if you find any, they're going away. So they are harder to find now, and unfortunately, it's a shame because I feel like they're actually a really great product. They have this really light, moussey texture to them, and they sheer out. They stay put because they have like almost like a powder finish once they dry down, but they're really nice. So I really like these. I do find that these sheer out very, very easily. So if you want to build them up, it takes a little bit more work. So these would be around the middle of my list. And then another one that I did not include is the Anna Sui Black Cream Blush. And I only didn't include this because this is really the only color, and it's one of those color changing blushes. So I wanted to stick with things that are a little bit more, you know, like things that you can get in multiple shades. So this one here, I absolutely love the formula. You know, I would love to see this in more shades. Perhaps there are more, but I don't know. So the Black Cream Blush, I absolutely love it. It gives you kind of this blackberry type of shade. And again, staying power on here is really good. This one would be at the top of my list, probably somewhere between 6 and 10. So let's go ahead and move on to the rest of them. We have 20 blushes that I ranked, and I will be doing arm swatches, and we have cheek swatches for everything as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to work our way from number 20 all the way up to number 1. And before we start, let me just explain a little bit about what I'm looking for in a blush so you can see how these things were ranked. So I did rank them based on my personal favorites, and what I'm looking for in a cream blush is something that lasts all day, something that is, for the most part, I usually want something that looks a little bit more natural on the cheek. So a dewy look is fine, but something like very sparkly or very wet looking is not something that I typically go for. I don't want it to look greasy. I don't mind a powder finish, but it doesn't have to be a powder finish, but I want it to look seamless, be able to blend out nicely and smoothly. Sometimes products can be a little bit firmer in the pan. You really have to warm them up. So I'm also looking for something that isn't too hard to warm up during the winter time as well, because during the summer, I find it's a lot easier to apply all varieties of cream blushes. But during the winter, it can be a little bit harder to get that smooth coverage, at least here. I'm near DC, so it gets cold here, and yes, that can be, you know, problematic. You really have to warm things up. And sometimes, depending on the type of packaging, that can be something harder to do. So we've got cream and liquid blushes here. And we are going to start off with number 20. And for me, my number 20 is actually the Lisa Eldridge blushes. Now, I detubed mine. I did have problems with my tubes. They refunded me for those. But I decided to put them in a pot instead, and mine have gotten a little bit drier. Now, I have to say, one of the issues with this blush for me is the fact that all of the different shades had very different consistencies, and they can be kind of oily as well. So they do stay put, and if you have the right consistency in your shade, it ends up, you know, working out nicely, but it's not a blush that I reach for. This shade here is Mountain Walk. It's a very pretty berry shade. I was really looking forward to this because there aren't too many berry shades that have more of that purple vibe to it, and this one does. So it's like purple and berry mixed together. And I really like the shade, but again, I don't care for the formula. And even though I have detubed mine, I still get some oil that comes up, even though I leave all of my jars like flat like this. I don't tilt them on the side or anything. And somehow the oil still migrates to the lid. So it goes past this little seal into the lid cap here. So I don't know. There's just something off about these. I think she's working on those right now. So hopefully the newer ones will be a little bit better than the first go around. My number 2 is from Tower 28. This is Rush Hour. And these are the Beach Please cream blushes. And I like these blushes. I think they blend out nicely. They perform well. They've got nice, you know, easy to use packaging. The reason they're further down on my list is, for me, these only last maybe about 4 hours or so before I have significant fading, but they are at a lower price point. So I feel like they're a great way to try out colors that maybe you wouldn't necessarily, or if you're looking for something, you know, if you don't mind the fading, if you're going on the beach or something like that. You know, I do think that a product like this would work well, something easy to carry with you. So I do think they're a nice product. They're just not going to be a favorite product for me, but I wouldn't hesitate to purchase more to try some colors that maybe I wouldn't use quite so often. It is a creamy formula. It blends out nicely. Again, for me, the only issue really is the staying power. Number 18 is this Sisley Phyto-Blush tint or twist. So this is shade number 1, Petal, and it has a very smooth, silky texture going on. And I really like the way it feels. I love Sisley's Phyto Twist products in general, but this blush is not one of them because unfortunately, again, the staying power on this isn't so great. And I think that this one shears out very easily. It's okay. It's just an okay product. But for the price point, I feel like there are many other blushes that perform better and last longer on my skin. So although I don't have any actual issues with the product itself, you know, I do feel like it could have a better, you know, wear time, but texturally and blendability and everything, all of that's good. But for the price point, it just doesn't meet my expectations. Next up, we have the Surratt. This is the liquid blush in Barb a Papa. And these go on very sheerly. They are easy to work with formula-wise, but I really don't like the packaging on this. The applicator, it is a twist up, and it's one of those ones where sometimes you're twisting a lot before the product comes up. I also don't like having the sponge applicator that is not removable for cleaning. So most of the times when I'm using this, I will deposit a bunch of product on my hand and use a brush instead. So the actual product itself, it shears out nicely. It goes on well. I would say it lasts about 4 or 5 hours before fading on me, but it's something that I think looks good when you put it on, but it's just not a favorite product because of the packaging mostly. I do think, you know, it could have been, I think it would have been higher up on the list if it was a little bit easier to get the product out of the packaging. Next, we have Patrick Ta. Now, these are the blush duos. So there's a cream product and a powder product. We're not talking about the powder, but this one here is She's So LA. And these have a nice, thin, silky texture for the cream. You can see it blends out smoothly. And I think they're a very nice product. I think because it's kind of a duo product, you know, it is intended to be used with the powder. And I feel like when I use just the cream on its own, it's kind of missing something. You know, I think the longevity for the cream blush on its own is 4 or 5 hours for me. I think it goes on very smoothly and it's very silky on the skin. It has a little bit of a sheen, not a sparkle, but there is some light reflective qualities to it. I think it's a nice product, but it's not one that I reach for a ton. So I think it's nice, but again, it's just something that didn't quite meet my expectations, so I don't use it as much as I expected to. Number 15 is Salt New York. I have to say, these Salt New York palettes are incredible. Absolutely love these. And this is the shade Rose that I used here. Now, this would be higher up on my list, but it is one of those products that during the winter, as it's colder out, it takes a little bit more work to warm up. And it is a more natural product, so they will go bad a little bit faster. And that's one of the reasons that it is further down on my list. But I do think that these go on very nicely. You can see they sheer out well, but you can also build them up. The lasting power on these is pretty good. You know, probably somewhere between 6 and 8 hours on me. And I think that, you know, they're a really nice product. They've got a lot of different colors to choose from. And there are, you know, sales pretty frequently, not like all the time, but there are sales enough that you can go ahead and, you know, pick up products when you want to at a discounted price, which is a great way to try them. And they're multi-use. So I really do like the Salt New York ones, and they would be higher up on my list if they, you know, didn't expire quite as quickly. But again, you know, they are a more natural product, which if you're looking for something like that, they're definitely a product you should check out. Number 14 are the Hourglass Vanish Sticks. And I think this is a really nice product. I don't really love the triangular packaging. I think it's a little gimmicky. And this shade here is called Sacred. And these are a more opaque, more pigmented cream blush. They do blend out well. They are a little bit thicker of a formula than some of the other blush sticks that I've used. So, and they're a little bit more pigmented right off the bat, which is a good thing for some people and a little bit harder to work with for others. So, you know, there are different ways to apply this. For me, I like to kind of put a swatch on my hand, and that helps warm the product up as well. So I'll pull a bunch of product onto the hand, warm it up, make it a little creamier, and then use a brush with it. And it shears out beautifully like that. And the staying power on these is somewhere around 7 or 8 hours. And I think they are a really nice product. Number 13, we have the Chantecaille Cheek Gelées. I really like these. A little bit goes a long way. I think these are fantastic for traveling. I love mixing and matching them. But I have to say that I feel like the more pigmented shades, this one here is Vibrant, are better than the lighter shades. In my experience, the lighter ones they kind of sheer out too much and harder to see. So I think if you are interested in these, go with one of the shades that looks really dark. They sheer out beautifully. They do last, you know, at least over 8 hours on me, and they're just really beautiful. You know, if you want to sheer it out even more, you know, mix it with a little moisturizer or something as well. And I absolutely love these products. But again, I do feel like the lighter shades are a little bit harder to see. So that's kind of why they are more towards the middle of my list. They could have been a bit higher up if we had more shades and more shades that kind of performed equally, in my opinion, because I really feel like the other ones, you know, as soon as you try to blend it out, you can't really see it. Number 12 is the Jones Road Cheek Sticks. And I like these. These are a balmy blush. So they're gonna have a little bit more of that balmy sheen to it and that balmy texture. So they don't completely dry down. You're going to feel a little bit of that like tackiness from a balm. They do last somewhere between 6 and 8 hours on me, but they fade. So the deeper shades I will still see around 8 hours, but they will be less intense. But the lighter shades, you know, you've got maybe till 6 hours and you're not really gonna see them as well. I really like the different colors in here. I like using them. I love the way that they blend out, but the balmy texture is not my favorite because I like to not be able to feel anything after it has like set. And I feel like these don't completely set, so they're a little bit lower on the list than some of my favorites. Next, we have the Rodial blush drops. This one here is in Frosted Pink, and these they come in a little dropper, and I really like these. These will last all day for me. You know, they're a liquid. It shears out nicely. As is the name, this one has a frosty appearance. They're all going to have more of that sheen, that glow to it, which is not something that I use all the time. It's something that I like a lot for the summer, but I don't use as much all year, which is why they aren't higher on the list. But the actual formula and how well the formula goes on and how well it stays deserves to be higher up, if that makes sense. But there are only 2 shades, and I think the lack of shades does make it's a little bit of a con there. But I love the actual formula. It feels kind of like a silicone type liquid going on, and it does set, and it doesn't like dry down completely. I don't feel it on my skin, but it never looks powdery or dry or anything. You're always gonna have that fresh, dewy look, and it doesn't completely set. So if I go and I like rub it, I will be able to move product. So just something to note there. If you're just wearing it and you're not like rubbing your face all day, it's not gonna budge. Now, numbers 9 and 10, we actually have a tie. So we have the Rituel de Fille. These are the Color Nectar Pigment Balms. This one is shade Glasswing, and I love the texture of these. Again, it's a little bit of a balmy type texture, but not as balmy as the Jones Road Sticks. You can see there's a sheen. These will sheer out. They'll blend out beautifully. They do last at least 8 hours on my skin, and I just think they are a great product. I think that the Merit Flush Balms, and this is the shade Raspberry Beret, I think they are very similar. So that's kind of why they're tied, because I feel like the formulas both go on very easily. They are very similar in texture and staying power and everything else. So I think both of these are fantastic. The Merit actually is slightly cheaper for the amount of product that you get. But they're very close in price point. So the Merit actually has 0.31 ounces or 9 grams. And the Color Nectar Pigment Balm is going to be 3.2 grams or 0.11 ounces. So it's about 1/3 of the size of the Merit. So per ounce or per gram, the Merit is a slightly better value than the Rituel de Fille. So I really think the major difference between these two products is going to be the range of colors, because again, they're both going to end up kind of like drying and staying put on your skin with kind of that sheer texture to it. And they look beautiful, and I think they're both fantastic products. Again, they last about 8 hours on me. So that was number 9 and 10. And for number 8, we have the new Victoria Beckham. These are the Cheeky Posh blush sticks. And this one here is going to be in the shade Knickers. I have to apologize, I'm not as great at swatching on this arm here, but these are a creamy blush stick. They are clean beauty. They sheer out well. They're easy to use. I find the applicator easier than the Hourglass. I do feel like these are actually kind of a similar formula to the Hourglass, but these are slightly, I wouldn't say the Hourglass is dry, but it's like firmer in the stick. So it requires a little bit more warming up of the product than the Victoria Beckham. But I do feel like they are very similar in texture otherwise. I feel like the Victoria Beckham are slightly easier to work with than the Hourglass, but otherwise they're fairly similar. So I think these are a really nice blush stick. They're very easy to use. There's a variety of colors. I love mixing and matching these. And again, just like with Hourglass, I like to put a swatch on my hand and then dip a brush in. But again, these, they just blend out slightly more easily. They're a little bit creamier. And so it's not necessary to do that, but I enjoy it that way. Number 7, we have another new blush to the market. This is the Merit. And I feel like this is a drier version of the Whipped Shiseido blushes. Let's blend out this side. And, you know, it's not quite as moussey or anything as that, but they do have kind of a similar texture. You can see if you are actually looking at the product that they have a similar look to it. This is kind of a mix of the Armani Neo Nude and the Shiseido Whipped blushes. They have a good stain power. They blend out very nicely. They kind of have like a cloud-like moussey texture to them, and they're very easy to build up. And I think that they're just a really nice product, very easy to use, and they have a good amount of colors to choose from. I also like how there is refillable packaging. You can purchase just a refill and put that like in a magnetic palette or something if you'd like. So you've got options, and I think that's really a great thing. Another thing to note with this packaging, you can either lay it flat, or the flat back allows it to stand up vertically as well, which is a great space-saving design in my opinion. So when I store it in my drawers, I'm able to fit them a little bit more easily that way. Next, we have the Melt Cream Blush Light in Honey Thief. I love this formula. It is so silky, so creamy, very, very easy to use. Unfortunately, most of the shades are going to be more sparkly, which is not really my thing. This shade is Honey Thief, which is one of the ones without any like sparkle and sheen. And I love the way this goes on. It's one of the silkiest blushes. I think the formula is incredible. It lasts over 8 hours on me. This particular shade, Honey Thief, I think if you're looking for like a peachy blush, it's one of those nearly universal peachy blushes. It's fantastic. Absolutely love it. And I wish they had more colors in this particular finishing category. So hopefully they'll make some more, but absolutely love it. And if they had more colors in this particular finish, then, you know, I would definitely pick those up. At number 5, we have the Westman Atelier blush sticks, and I really like these. I like the packaging on these. These are magnetic. I do think that, you know, with their particular, all of the things that the brand kind of aims for, they should be looking at refillable packaging, and perhaps they are, so hopefully they are. But I love the packaging on these. It does have a magnetic closure. It's very chic. The formula itself goes on nicely. They do last all day on me, and I think they're very easy to use. They are going to have a more matte finish than some of these other ones that we've looked at here. And I think they're really easy to use, really easy to work with. If you want them to be a little bit glowier, mix them with either, you know, something like the lit up highlighting sticks or something from Westman Atelier, or a little bit of like a radiance serum or something like that as well. So you can easily change the finish. But I think these have a really sophisticated, more matte appearance without actually being dry on the skin. So I absolutely love them. Moving on to number 4, we have the Armani Neo Nude Bombs. I love the texture of these. They have a very thin, silky texture. And this one here is shade 50, Cool Mauve. They feel very thin and silicone-y on the skin. They dry to a powder finish. They last all day. I think they have a good size range, but not all of the shades actually appeal to me. You know, they have contouring shades in here as well as blush shades and so forth. And I really like that, but I do hope they expand the range and add some, you know, a little bit more vibrant blush shades as well. But I love the finish of these. I love the way they perform. I think the texture is really cool. And I think they're a little bit more innovative than a lot of the cream blushes that we already have here. So I think they're a really great product, and it's definitely one that I reach for quite a bit. Next, at number 3, this is hard. Number 3 and number 2 are pretty much tied product-wise, but because of the price point, I'm moving Kjaer Weis to number 3. This is their cream blush. This is the shade Blossoming. It comes in different packaging. You can buy just the refill. You can buy this, which is called the Iconic packaging. It's metal and it's like a swivel top. Or there is red cardboard packaging that you can refill a few times. I love this formula. It goes on so nicely. This particular shade is very, you know, I particularly love this shade on me, but I think, you know, it sheers out nicely. It builds up, very natural looking. It is a clean beauty blush and it's got a 1-year shelf life. Mine has lasted longer than a year, but it does need to be replaced soon. So I would give it closer to 18 months to 2 years probably before you notice any signs. So I would say probably replace it after about 1.5 years to be on the safe side. But I love the formula and it's, you know, so close to being in the number 2 spot if it only weren't for how quickly they can go bad, because I love to collect a variety of shades and I feel limited in doing that just to make sure that they stay fresh. So moving on, my number 2 spot. My number 2 spot is the Makeup by Mario Cream Blushes. And I have to say, the brand itself has been hit or miss for me, but these blushes are incredible. I love the attention to detail with the packaging. You have a removable brush on the end. It just kind of snaps in. You can see it's got like a little, you know, push down and twist. So you can remove this, you can clean it. It's got everything that you need right here. I do wish, you know, that there was an easier way to put this on without bending the bristles. But the actual blushes are incredible on the skin. Every time I wear these, I get compliments. You know, they give you like this really dewy, healthy look. They blend out beautifully. They look very natural. There's a wide variety of colors. I started with 2 of these and I grew to the whole collection because they are incredible. And they're a great price point. So, I mean, overall, best value on any of the cream blushes, the award has to go to this one, because not only are they at the top of my list for quality, but you can't really beat the prices. I mean, not that there aren't less expensive cream blushes, but for the performance, yeah, these are like the total package. So this shade here that I'm showing is Earthy Pink. And again, I just think these are absolutely wonderful. Sometimes I'll use a brush that it comes with, but I don't always. but it's a great thing to travel with because you've got that kind of built in. And yet again, the brush can be removed for cleaning, which is so wonderful. Absolutely love these. I think Mario hit them out of the park with these cream blushes. Phenomenal. And it may come as no surprise, but the Cle de Peau cream blushes are my #1 favorite. And yes, they are a pricey product. They last forever. They stay on my skin all day, no issues with fading. They dry to kind of like a powder finish, but they have a little bit more luminosity, like a natural luminosity than, for example, the Westman Atelier. They're not as matte looking. They're probably the most natural finish out of all of these blushes. And they've got, you know, quite a few colors. There are only like 4 colors, I believe, in the permanent line. They have released 2 limited edition shades for the holidays. Those are fantastic as well. But I think that the performance on the Cle de Peau cream blushes just kind of, they outperform all of the other blushes in this category for me. They last longer, they look more natural, and you know, they actually last product-wise before going like rancid for a very, very long time. They have a 2-year shelf life, but I have had my oldest one longer than that with no issues still. And the size of the container is perfect to put in a brush if you are interested in applying them with a brush. So I absolutely love them. I can't say enough good things about the Cle de Peau cream blushes. And my favorite shade is the one that I use here, #4, Perfect Peach. And it's, you know, it's kind of like that cult classic shade for a reason. You know, it's probably, I think it's their most popular selling shade. And I can see why. It's one of those nearly universal shades. And I think it's just fantastic. So I hope this was helpful. I would love to know what your favorite cream blushes are and what you think of my ranking, you know, what you agree with, what you disagree with as well. Also, if there are any cream blushes that I do not have that you think I should try, please let me know. Again, I did not, you know, try all of the shades, but I wanted to kind of give you a representation of what the formulas and finishes look like for each of these cream blushes. So one more time, starting from the top, we have the Lisa Eldridge in Mountain Walk. This is the Tower 28 in Rush Hour. Then we have the Sisley in #1, Petal, the Surratt in Barb a Papa, Patrick Ta in She's So LA, then the Salt, New York in Rose, the Hourglass in Sacred, Chantecaille in Vibrant, the Jones Road in Tawny Nude, Rodial in Frosted Pink. You can see that sheen that will be there. It's, in my opinion, perfect for summer. Then we have the Rituel de Fille in Glasswing, followed by the Merit in Raspberry Beret. And over here we have the Victoria Beckham in Knickers, followed by the Rose Ink in Ophelia, the Melt in Honey Thief, the Westman Atelier in Dou Dou, Armani Neo Nude in 50 Cool Mauve, Kjaer Weis in Blossoming, Makeup by Mario in Earthy Pink, and Cle de Peau in 4 Perfect Peach. And I just think there's something for everybody in this collection. And yes, please let me know your favorites. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this was helpful. Be sure to save this as a resource, share with your friends, and I'll see you very soon. So have a great day and stay safe and healthy.